respect, acceptance, equal access to education, leadership and economic opportunities, a global push to end gender discrimination is gaining momentum. We look at the challenges and successes of female activists from around the world in this panel discussion, Fearless Women on the Ground. Now, from our studios in New York, your moderator, Voice of America's Anastasi Tudieshe.
Good morning to all and welcome to this panel discussion named, you heard it, Fearless Women on the Ground. The status of women. What a topic, especially in our day and age of unprecedented global mobilization for women's rights, equality, and justice. Marches, powerful statements, viral social media conversations such as the hashtag MeToo, hashtag Time's Up, Ni Una Menos, hashtag Balance Ton Port, you name it. Well, the four ladies you're about to discover lived, implemented those mobilizations way before the hashtags happened. My name is Anastasi Tudieshe. I am an international broadcaster and I work with VOA's French to Africa service in Washington, D.C. It is truly an honor for me to be here in our New York studio to moderate this exchange. Our four fearless women are here in New York to be part of the 62nd UN Commission on the Status of Women, the largest gathering on gender equality at the United Nations that ends later today. For 2 weeks, 8,000 women have gathered here to debate, exchange, and advocate for gender equality. The good thing when you're a media organization with more than 40 language services is that you can have input from all over the world, and that is exactly what we are going to have. Questions for you, ladies, from China, Hong Kong, and some vox pops from women all over Africa. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our wonderful women. Blessing Iwaku from Nigeria. Good morning, Blessing. Blessing is the program manager of Alliances for Africa, an NGO that advocates for more women in Nigeria's political field. Yeah. You have some work.
Yeah, exactly.
We also have with us Cecilia El Shami. Good morning, Cecilia.
Good morning.
Cecilia is from Lebanon, and she is the program manager at the Lebanon Family Planning Association for Development. And we will see that there is more to the organization than information on contraception and access to it. Because rural women's voices matter too, we are very happy to have with us Ruth Kehiu from Tanzania.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ruth. Ruth is program manager at Pastoral Women Council, an NGO that works with pastoralist Maasai women, and you can tell that Ruth really graced us with a Maasai attire. And last but not least is Estrella, aka Mai Año Nuevo from the Philippines. Good morning, Estrella.
Good morning.
Estrella is the executive director of Attica Overseas Workers and Communities Initiatives, an NGO that focuses on Filipino women migrants and their families that stayed in the Philippines. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, ladies, this discussion is an open conversation, so feel free to intervene or reflect on whatever you hear, if you feel and when you feel like it. Deal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. We are here in New York. The 62nd Commission on the Status of Women comes to an end. It has been meetings, panels. What are you taking home with you? Blessings.
Thank you very much for the question. My take home for me is to begin to look at strategic intervention, how to identify rural women at the community level and the young girls.
More strategy.
More strategies.
Okay,
yes.
we'll keep that. Cecilia.
What I take with me is that although we are coming from different continents, from different countries, women have same issues all over the world. So
different situations, but same
issues,
same core issues.
Exactly.
Mai, what has been striking to you?
What's striking is the need to scale up our initiatives so that we can reach more women and have greater impact of all the work that we are doing.
Ruth?
I think for me, it's the need to recognize the contribution of rural women, including indigenous women, but also the need to do more to empower them in all spheres of life. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you are taking at the end of this meeting. We have asked some Kenyan women their views on gender equality. Oh, they had answers. Take a look.
What needs to be done to improve gender equality in Kenya?
What needs to be done to improve gender equality?
What needs to be done? What needs to be done?
What needs to be done to improve gender equality in Kenya?
Ni nini kinachohitaji kufanywa kuimarisha usawa wa jinsia nchini Kenya?
We can try and improve education system so that it can be favorable for girls.
We need to put aside the norms, the gender norms that we have with our cultures.
Introduction of sanitary towels to schools.
You need to know yourself. If you don't know yourself, you don't know what you should fight for.
And acceptance of more women in parliament so that they can be able to fight for our rights as women.
We have to speak more about the role models that we have as engineers, as medical doctors, so that we can change the perspective of the younger generations.
We should improve the education sector in Kenya.
With that, we will be able to fight the gender equality.
So, who would like to react?
I think I'll do
Blessing.
that first. Thank you for that clip. I think what we should be looking at before you can actually address gender equality in my country, I think the first thing is to get more women in parliament. You need the legal framework to begin to address those issues. So if you don't have more women in parliament, I don't think we're making any headway. So you need women in parliament who can bring issues that has to do with men on board for discussion. And that will also address the educational system, address the health situation of women in the country, address the issue of inheritance issue, address the issue of insecurity and displacement that is ongoing, especially in the northern part of the country.
But to you, it all starts in the parliament.
In the parliament, because you need that legal framework to begin the discussion.
To start anything.
Yes.
Legal framework.
Yes.
So each woman has her own context. Let's discover your context, ladies. Cecilia, reproductive health is part of the Lebanon family planning duties, but the organization has shifted little by little towards empowering women economically.
Yes,
How so?
When the Aleph in Lebanon Family Planning Association started in 1969, family planning was still not spoken about in Lebanon, because
it was taboo.
It was a taboo because both religions in Lebanon, and we have lots of religions, but both religions agree on this, that contraceptives should not be used by women. So when we started, this was a very important issue, because families were like they will have 5 children, 6 children, and we know how children affect the woman's health and life and empowerment in general. So we had to start with this, and then because we found while we working with women that they need the education about their rights, they need the education about their how to become more powerful in the house to attain equality with the man, because unfortunately we have a very patriarchal society in Lebanon, and women step by step are climbing the ladder.
So you went from helping women own their own body and decide when they can plan a family to empowering them economically. The two are related to you.
And of course we work also with them on political empowerment, not only economic. We want them to have a voice in their community. We start with in the village. We want them to have a voice in their village, to be in the municipal elections, to be in the municipal boards of their...
And what is amazing to me is that it starts with reproductive health.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Filipino experience, women migrant experience, if you want. A migrant woman life is filled with challenges. What are the specifics of the Filipino migrant women?
Most of those going out of the country are working as migrant domestic workers.
And the numbers are very interesting.
Yeah. In the Philippines, we have about 10.5 million overseas Filipinos. That's about 10% of the population. And every year, about 50% of those going out of the country are women. And out of these women going out of the country, most of them are working in nurturing role, in care role like nurses. But the majority of them are working as migrant domestic workers. And of course, it's very different from working as professionals compared to working as domestic workers. And the situation is that they don't have time. As long as the employer is awake, they have to work more than sometimes 15 hours in a day. And also that because they are in the home, there's a lot of problems with sexual molestation. But also, most of those going out of the country are women with children, leaving children behind. So there are also this problem of feeling of guilt, because they know that traditional role is they have the responsibility towards their children, and leaving their children, it's heartbreaking for them, and they are bringing these feelings of guilt while working in a foreign land. So
but in the same time, they work for their children. They work to send them money.
Yeah, it's true. But because there is this feeling that they have abandoned their nurturing role. Their traditional role is to be with their children. And because they are far away, they always constantly have this feeling of guilt for leaving the children behind, for leaving the family behind.
So what happens when they get back to their families?
When they, it's very different, because especially if they, initially they only think they're going out of the country for 2 years, 5 years, but the reality is even after long years of work abroad, they do not have savings. Like 70% of them do not have saving to enable them to come home. So, and those long years sever their bond. They started to have gap with the family. So, in fact, I had a lot of interviews with migrant women who came home. And then they said, in fact, when they are coming home, they feel that they are not successful in working abroad, because they said when they went out, they are young, they did not have money, but they are healthy, and they have the future ahead of them. But when they are coming home, they are already old, they still do not have money, they are sick, and they do not have the family.
And they're disconnected from their
they
family.
are disconnected from
so
their family.
So that's the context you're working in. Ruth,
Yes.
Sometimes a woman can't or won't leave the country, and she will have to face her own domestic challenges. What is the context of the rural women you work with?
So for the women that we work with, financial independence and better livelihoods and incomes is so important. When we started our work 20 years ago, the Maasai women that we're working with were fully dependent on their husbands for money to feed their children, for money to just run the household. But as we worked with them, they started gaining that financial independence and having their own incomes.
So we will get to that, but there's another context. They're rural women, so they work in the nature, and there are specific dangers, or there's a specific way of life, a hard way of life.
Exactly. So for the women that we work with, they live in very remote, very rural contexts. They barely have basic services like education, water, and health. And so for them, their life is very, very difficult. Sometimes they have to walk between 6 to 7 hours looking for water. So you can imagine what that means for a woman. It means she's spending almost the entire day just looking for water. She hardly has anything else, any time to do anything else. And this also translates to how they bring up their children. So for the most part, they use their children to do the household chores. So it means the children are also not gaining, access to education. So in a nutshell, their life is very hard. Where they live is very hard. And now with climate change, you find that there's a lot of drought. And therefore, a lot of the livestock that they are depending on for their income, for their livelihood, is dying. And that impoverishes, the household that they're living in. So for the most part, their life is very hard. And whatever services and whatever help that we can give them is very much important.
Blessing, is living in the city and trying to have a say in the political field easier than what you've just heard?
I don't think so. Living in the city does not guarantee that you will have access to political spaces. Even women in the rural area also face the same challenge when it comes to politics. Likewise, women in the city. So it doesn't matter where you're staying, but for us in Nigeria, election process and the voting process actually take place at the community level. We've realized that women who live in the city don't actually vote. The voting day, they actually sit and watch the TV. The voting actually takes place at the grassroots. So it's the same challenge. It doesn't, there's no difference.
And all of you agrees. I hear you say, yes,
that's true.
You're going through.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, lady, isn't it, and you are the living proof for that, isn't it amazing that when you ask women what they want, they actually say it? Well, let's go to Kinshasa and hear what women in the streets of Kinshasa have to say.
We need to create a structure for the training of women. Try to motivate young women, moms, to create jobs and not sit idly by. Secondly, I will also say, in businesses, in academia, give women a chance. Give women the positions hitherto granted to men. Try to balance things. 50 for men, 50 for women.
You have to have consideration for the women. Give women what men can do. For example, in companies, give women the power to lead men, to be the head of a business, to see what a woman can bring. We need to value women just as men are valued.
For equality to be effective, women must be given a place. A woman can study well, go to college. She does not really have a place, not the opportunity to do what she wants. The first thing you have to do is put the woman at ease. We're talking about 50-50 parity, but we do not see that. Most people in high positions are men. Women really do not have this accessibility. The woman is not considered.
In order for there to be equality in our country, women must be given 50% and men 50%.
What do women want? You've just heard it. Equality, 50-50, consideration. Who wants to react to this clip?
Actually,
Cecilia.
I want to say, like in Lebanon, although the women have the right to vote since 1953, yet you can see that our political scene is mainly male-dominated. Like we only have 3% of the women in the parliament and 5% in the municipal boards. And we were working for a long time to get a quota. We were only asking for 20% quota, not 50-50. I admire these women. They want 50.
She's super ambitious.
Yes. And it was really very difficult to get the politicians to agree on that. But we're taking steps towards the future. And this year for the election, we have like 100 women candidates. So we're going to have elections on May 6th. I hope that at least 50% of those 111 reach the parliament.
So there's also another word that was said during the clip, and you also mentioned it a little bit. Let's address the elephant in the room. The man.
Yes.
The need for empowerment stems from a situation where there is little to no power at all for women. You've understood that with our four women, whereas men have all the power and don't always seem to be willing to share it. So now there's no intention here to start a war of sexes, to start a blame game, but that is actually the reality of this mobilization all around the world, questioning and pushing to end power, freedom, and rights inequality. A balance that will benefit all. I think we all agree here. So, ladies, what have you met a male or males that along the way resistance on the field from males, and also have you met male allies? Maybe they were the same person. Ruth?
Yeah, when we started our work 20 years ago, there was a lot of resistance from the men.
How did they express it?
They expressed it by actually outrightly saying that they didn't understand the work that we were doing and that we were trying to spoil their wives. because the wives were now, challenging them, about the decisions that they were making. But as we went on with our work, we started seeing that the men started seeing the advantage of empowering women, and they actually came on board and supported our work.
What were these advantages that they saw and they
So women
women
began having their own incomes. They began, earning their own money, and these women would go back and not only empower themselves, but they would empower the entire household, and in some instances, the entire community. So men did not have to, shoulder the entire burden of taking care of the family, and so they saw, oh, this is really good when women are actually empowered financially. So they came on board, but then it did take quite a while to actually change the way they thought about it.
I'd like to go to Mai right now, because the situation is slightly different. Women, Filipino, that's the contrary. Filipino migrant women go outside, and the men,
they live
stay
there.
at home. So how do they live it? How do they feel?
The women are getting to be empowered, because before they don't have a work, they just stay in the house. Now they are employed, they are able to go out of the country and earn a living. But the impact of this is that while the women are getting more involved in the economic sphere, the men are not taking over the nurturing role in the family. Because when you are thinking, the women are out, maybe the husband should be the one nurturing the family, but it doesn't happen. It is again the female member of the family that does the child care, the nurturing care in the household, even if, for example, the one that is left behind is the youngest daughter. Even if there's a father or a brother, it is always the daughter that takes care of the nurturing role in the family.
But how do the men feel? What do they tell you about how they feel in the family, being with the fact that they are not the ones providing, the biggest provider in the couple?
Actually, they have a problem with the role shift, because before they are the main breadwinner, and because now the income that the women bring to the family is greater. So they have a problem with this role shift in the family. In fact, some of the women, they try, because of the they are empowered by the experience for working abroad, they're able to handle this with the husbands. Like they are slowly being able to make the husband realize that they are changing, and there should be a shared responsibility in the house. But unfortunately, there are also some men, because of this feeling of powerless, lessened power in the family, they get out of the marriage. They go to find other wife.
Other women.
Yeah.
I said that in introduction we would have some questions from all over the world. Now is the moment. Cecilia, we have a question for you from Taiwan.
I'm Cha Yun Huang, Secretary General of Taiwan Gender Equality Education Association. My question is, in the past few years, campaign for gender equality education has been under attack in Taiwan. I want to know if such attack has happened in your country, and any countermeasures you could recommend for Taiwan.
Excuse me, I didn't hear the question.
Maybe we could hear it again. Maybe we could play it again.
Please, because I missed that request.
Let's listen to it again.
I'm Cha Yun Huang, Secretary General of Taiwan Gender Equality Education Association. My question is, in the past few years, campaign for gender equality education has been under attack in Taiwan. I want to know if such attack has happened in your country, and any countermeasures you could recommend for Taiwan.
Correctly, she's saying that there was an attack on the
campaign for gender equality was under attack and in Taiwan, and she wanted to have your input and maybe some advices you would have.
I don't think in Lebanon we had like an attack against this. Of course, there's always resistance from politicians or the leaders in the country.
But you wouldn't go to an extent and call it an attack?
No, it's not an attack. On the contrary, when you go to talk to them, they are always, saying yes, of course, women should have her place and their places and things like that. But when it comes to action, they don't do it. Like when we were doing this campaign for quota, we visited most of the politicians, and they all said yes. When it's raised in the parliament, we'll vote for it. When it went to the parliament for voting, most of them left the room, so there was no...
one could consider this a passive-aggressive attack, since they're not acting on it.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be to these young women?
My advice is like what's happening now in Lebanon. We have a coalition of women, coalitions of women working together to push for this. And this is why, like I said before, now we have 100 women candidates for election. Because these women came together and said, we will not wait for the men to nominate them or to say, yes, you can become a candidate.
So it starts with women doing for themselves,
exactly.
And then finding allies into men.
Exactly.
And never giving up. You know, it's the fight is not easy. Just never give up, and ensure that you have a critical mass of both men and women, by the way, that are going to, create the momentum for gender equality.
Man is not always the enemy in this fight.
Not always, not always. Of course, you have to strategically engage men, but it's very important to have them on board.
But how do you do that? That's what she was asking. How do you engage them?
I think one of the way of engaging men in women issue, for us in the past, women are not visible when it comes to political participation, but we've gone past that.
So become visible.
Yes, become visible. And one way to also convince the men is for women to begin to understand their human rights and improve themselves in terms of educational wise. So when you have the substance, it's easier for somebody to engage with you and listen to you. And also when women have that opportunity to lead, they should be able to leave that legacy that when you're not there, what you have done can also speak for you.
So these are open some the door and let it open for the ones coming
exactly.
behind.
This is one way to engage with the men.
Mike?
Yeah, because I think as we said, it's not, they are not the enemy, because we have to understand that they were also socialized in this kind of situation. So they have to have the understanding why this is happening, and they have to see that, because the image is women are weak, they don't have a power. So when they see that women are gaining power and it's beneficial for them, that they are empowered, then they also step up. So for me, that means also in the next generation, in our generation, we have to change the way we rear our sons. We have to change the way they are socialized, that it has to end this kind of socialization, that making them think that the men are more powerful than women. It has
and
to
this
change.
is very true in Africa. We keep hearing that African women are strong and African male are lazy. These are the things people say. But who raises boys and girls? Women. Women do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let me share an experience. One of our beneficiaries, Professor Edna Njoku, she shared her story with me. When she got married, she did not have that educational background, but she knew inside her that she was a core feminist, and she wanted that opportunity to explode. She was looking for who can help her enhance what she has so that she can begin to advance the cause of women in her community. But she didn't have the support of her husband, and as at then, the husband was a prof. So academically, he has equipped himself. So the woman decided to go back to school. She didn't get the support from him, but she actually insisted. And she went to school and went to school. By the time the husband realized she has gotten her PhD, you know, the good story about it is that the same man that did not give her the support went back to the village to throw a party for the woman, even without her knowledge. So these are some of, so it means that women, for you to actually get men to support you, you need to put substance. They need to see that, okay, you have what it takes. Okay, I want to support Blessing because she has what it takes to make that change that we're looking for. But if you don't have it, it's a challenge convincing them to
Blessing,
support you.
since you're talking, we have another question, and it's for you, from China. Take a listen.
Hello, my name is Jifang Qin. My question is concerning female political participation in your country. How is women's role on decision making in politics and leadership? Also, to what extent do you think that women's political empowerment or women's leadership in your country can reduce family and domestic violence, workplace harassment, and other forms of sexual abuse of power?
Here we have this question from China asking about women leadership, basically, and how you can empower women in politics. That's your field. That's what you're doing.
One way to empower women is first and foremost to identify women that have interest in politics. Once you identify them, you also key them into becoming members of a political party.
Is it difficult to find in Nigeria?
It's not difficult to find. In the past, it used to be difficult. And like I said before, in the past, what we have is that women don't participate in politics. But over years and time, women have realized that they need to be in those spaces where decisions are made. Okay. So women are interested. They have, they are not participating in politics. So you have them, when you go to political parties, women makes more than 50% of the members of political parties. So it's easier to find them there. So what you need to do
number
is
one, you identify them.
Number two, you ensure that they are financial members of political parties.
What does this mean?
What it means is that you can't just be a member of a political party if you are not a financial member, which means you cannot contribute to the decisions of the party, you cannot participate in some of the activities that the parties undertake. So you have to identify them, make them members of those political parties, and begin to build their capacity on basic skills that you know that women struggles with. And some of those skills are when it comes to understanding the structure of their political parties. So how do women begin to fundraise for campaigning? How do women begin to publicly express themselves in terms of effective and communication skills? How do women use the recent technology that is ongoing to begin to increase their profile?
I hear you, and that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Women have different lives in one day. You have to take care of the children, you're working, you take care of your family, and then you have to work on yourself too?
Yeah, that is the good thing about women. Women can multitask. We're fearless. We're feminists. We're bold. We can do a whole lot. As you're sitting down here now, you're thinking of, oh, what will my child eat? Ah, the man in the house, what is he going to eat? Oh, I need to pick my daughter from the school. I need to take her for this. That is just God's given talent.
Life.
Yes. So women can multitask, and we use that very well, even in politics. So without women in politics, some of the activities that actually go there will not even take place. The men are like this, they don't think this way. But it takes the intervention of a woman to see them and begin to articulate what needs to be done under an hour.
So you are looking at us through Facebook, and you might thinking, well, hearing all these experiences, well, all of these are maybe third world issues. Think again, or better yet, take a listen at this lady from Hong Kong.
Hong Kong, despite being a westernized international city, still holds traditional values. Women are more likely to sacrifice career after marriage or giving birth to child. Is this the same of women in the speakers' countries?
See, so how do you overcome challenges? How do you do that? How you advocate, you negotiate, that's what you ladies do all the time, but most of all, you empower. And that's what I would like to talk about right now. You empower, you help build or develop skills according to, of course, what the ladies or what the women you meet are telling you. I know that each of you have amazing empowerment stories to share. Please do. I'll start with Cecilia.
Yes, we are working now with women on economic empowerment, because like Blessing just said, when women, they make money and they earn a good living, they can have a voice first in their homes, and then in their community, and then in the society. So this is why we are working now on women empowerment.
Do you have a specific story to share with us?
Yes, I mean, we have several stories. Like
one is good.
We work with women who work from home, like producing traditional food stuff and so on. So after we did the training, this woman from a village in South Lebanon, she went ahead and she implemented all the knowledge that we gave her, and now she increased her productivity, and she was able to reach the market, to be able to sell these products, while in the past she only made them for her household or her family. And she was really very happy because for the first time she has money that she made, that she has control over it. I mean, she decides what she wants to do with this money. Maybe she will give it to her children. But
and also, I'm guessing she realizes that something that she does has an impact not only on her family, but also in the village and maybe outside.
Exactly. And because these women are becoming now more empowered, they feel that they can go to the municipality and tell him, look, we are being trained, we now have assets, knowledge assets, so on. We want to be in a cooperative. You need to help us to form this cooperative and to make us more successful. So they are raising their voices in their villages now, demanding from the
help and
support from the local government.
And in addition to what Cecilia had just said, they are also role models to women at the community level. You know, because when women see the progress that they have made, they tend to understand this issue of women rights and issues. At the community level, when you talk about women's human rights, it's like a strange word to them. So, but when you have practical examples of women's life that has been transformed, it becomes a role model, even to women in the community, even to the younger generation. That is how important it is.
What is your empowerment story?
For us, we've been doing women participation in politics for the past 16 years. But recently, what we're doing on ground in the southeastern states, we've had a lot of success stories. We had about 145 women that went through our capacity building training.
And do you have one story?
Yes, one story is that 14 of them actually are success stories, but one unique one is that in Abia State, one of the states where we work, they've never in the history of that state recorded any success where a woman is seen at the corridors or the decision-making platform. But we had one who is part of the program winning as being elected as a chairperson of that local government election, which has never happened.
And you credit that to all the work and training you're doing with her?
Yes, because she's part of the training, and she went back home to utilize those skills that were impacted in her, mobilizing skill, lobbying skills, strategic advocacy, being active in her political party, being financial member of that political party, and using her voice to speak for other women and gathering all the support and all that. I think that really helped her to get to where she is.
Ruth, with the Pastoralist Women Council, you have, I would say, a motto. So it's land, money, education.
Yes.
One story that shows that those three words really mean something for her.
So there's this one woman, she's actually amazing. We started working with her about 7 years ago. And when we met her, she was very destitute. Her husband was also very poor. And we started working with her, and we bought her one goat. And right now, as we speak, she has 200 heads of cattle. And all these cattle are owned by her, so they are not owned by the husband, they are owned by her. And in fact, she's the one who gives money to the husband. So it's really amazing because now she's been able to take her children to school, and she's even been able to build a modern house for her family. Before, she used to live in a mud house. Now she lives in a house made of corrugated iron sheets. So we find this as such a success story. But something else which is so amazing about this woman is that she has become a role model for other women in her community.
That's what blessing was.
So she goes around her community and tries to empower women to become financially independent. So she's organizing women in small microcredit groups, savings and microcredit groups, and they're beginning to save and lend each other, and they are beginning to see better incomes for themselves. But also what is very interesting about this woman is that now she's also engaging with decision makers, you know, government officials in her community, and she's become a champion for the rights of women within her community in those spaces. And in fact, the other day she was telling us that in the next general election, she's going to present herself for election, yeah, in the district council. And we feel this is so much important because she has not only empowered herself, her family, but she's also empowering other women.
Amazing, amazing story. And I hear and I see you ladies smiling and nodding.
Exactly. You know, when you hear the success stories, it keeps you going. You know, sometimes for us that are women that works at the development sector, when sometimes you get down, you're like, it's not working, I'm not seeing the results. But sometimes when you hear some of the success stories, it's like,
these are gems you can take with you and think about when you feel down. You with your organization build bridges, amazing bridges, important bridges between these Filipino migrant worker women and their families. Do you have a nice story to share about that?
I can remember one of the migrant, empowered women story. One of the work that we're doing is we're teaching the migrant women financial literacy. We call it family and income management because, as I mentioned before, they are not able to save after working for long years. So we
interesting is that they are not perceived like that in the Philippines.
Yeah.
They are perceived like being rich.
Yeah.
Or
that
well
is,
off.
In the Philippines, one of the challenge that we face is that the migrants, they are seen as, when you're working out of the country, the community perceives you as someone well off. That's why it's one of the reasons why the migrants do not have savings, because the family is becoming dependent on them. That's why the program that we have is we reach out to the migrants in destination country like Hong Kong and Singapore, and we also reach out to the families in their source villages. And we both teach them the same thing about managing the funds and also nurturing family relations. Because the challenge is not only about not having saving, because they send all the remittance back in the Philippines, but another challenge is that there is a lot of problem with family relations because of long-term separation. So one of the story that I can remember is that there's this woman who, during the training, I personally met her during our training. We have a program called reintegration counseling, where we do counseling, how can they come home successful. So this woman, she said, my goal, we teach them goal setting. My goal is to have 300,000 pesos, or approximately like $5,000. And with this, I will set up a business. And she also mentioned that she has problem with her son. She has an only son, and the son doesn't want to communicate with her. So it breaks her heart. She said, I'm doing all of this for him, but he doesn't want to speak to me. Whenever I call, he doesn't want to take the call. So what we did was, of course, we taught her, we linked her to a cooperative where she can start saving, because they make a pledge like, okay, if this is my goal, I make a saving of this amount. So she started saving. And the cooperative, if they start investing in the cooperative, they're given interest on their
on the savings.
On the savings, which is higher than commercial bank, like for example 5% to 6% per annum. So she started saving, and then the cooperative offered her that if you have a business, we can give you a loan of times 5 of whatever you have invested in us, without any collateral. And this enabled her to set up an agriculture trading business. And the cooperative helped her, link her to the market, to the supplier. So to make the long story short, after only 1 year, her asset has grown to about $1 million or $10,000.
Wow.
Or no, 20,000. 1 million is $20,000 after 1 year, because she was able to, because it's trading, it's fast moving. And we also, our organization also reached out to the family. We also gave them training and counseling for the son. Our staff went to him and explained about the situation, about the realities of the parents, and now, in fact, I met her 2 weeks ago. I was in Singapore, and she was so proud to tell me, you know, I have a very, very good son, and he is even helping with the trading, with the business. And of course, that's very heartwarming for us that we can make a difference in the lives of the women this way.
I can only imagine, and you warmed everybody's heart on set. I could hear them melt. So we have 15 more minutes to spend together, ladies, and I would like to reflect on this 60-second commission on the status of women, and this status ends with a strong engagement for concrete measures to ensure rural women and girls' rights, and to lift rural women out of poverty. That was a very strong statement. It's not over yet. The commission is not over yet, but so far that's what I got. How do you feel about that, Ruth?
I think it's very, very important, but also to say this, you know, when we talk about rural women, often we think of them as beneficiaries of interventions, and I think we need to flip that. We need to also see them as contributors to the development initiatives that we are having. And even when you talk about not only economic empowerment, but also political participation, often you only think about urban women who can be able to present themselves for election. And I think we need to move to a level where there is a level of diversity in the women who are in politics, so that we don't only see maybe urban women, educated women, but we actually have rural women. We have women with disabilities in those political spaces, because women are not homogeneous. We are not all the same. We are different. We are coming from different backgrounds. We have different challenges, and it is important that even in political spaces that diversity is presented, so that all our needs and challenges are addressed.
Also, is there something, Ruth, that you have seen here or heard that you would like to take back to Tanzania and implement?
Absolutely. I've had so many different things, so many different initiatives, and I think what has been very striking to me is the work that, for example, Blessing is doing on political participation, how to mobilize women around that.
So what would you take from what she said?
I think better engagement with decision makers and political parties, particularly because at the end of the day, it's political parties that get you to those, positions of leadership. So I think better engagement with political parties, but maybe not better engagement, but strategic engagement with political parties, so that rural women can begin participating effectively in those decision-making spaces.
Understood. Estrella, if you come to the next CSW, what would you like to see improved globally or in your organization?
I think for me, what I want to see is more women's solidarity. Because, for example, even in our situation where we are helping the migrant women, I see that a lot of us women, we have a role to play. In fact, our lives are touched by migrant domestic workers working for us. We are enabling women to have a career, because we take care of the nurturing role that they are not able to do because they pursue their career. We take care of the children. We nurture families, and the women. I think we should be more appreciative of the nurturing role in the family, because
how could we show that?
We can show.
How would you like women to show that appreciation?
We can show that appreciation, because normally the housework is considered low value. I think we have to value this work, because it has really a great contribution to our own individual success. We pursue our career because of them. So I want us to show our appreciation to our migrant domestic workers by giving them fair wages, by empowering them. Because I want to share this. Most of the women that we interviewed who consider themselves successful in going out of the country are those women whose employer treated them very well, gave them good salary, gave them free time to pursue skills training, respected them, give them free space to be part of organizations, to have social life, because this employer, they appreciated the contribution of these migrant women, and in turn they have repaid them with this respect. And these women came home successful, having achieved their goal for going out of the country for migration.
And that's something that you would like to see.
Yeah, I want to see more we have more solidarity in this way for other women who are enabling us to pursue our career and empower us also.
And take care of ourselves.
Exactly.
Cecilia, what has been the most inspiring experience that you've had in New York?
I think the most inspiring experience is just meeting all these women and hearing about their work. Really, it's remarkable work that's done everywhere in the world. And when I hear about the Maasai and how the women, they walk for hours to get water for their kids, or when I hear about the blessing work, I'm really in awe of the work they do. And
so what would you take from the Maasai women? What would you take from Blessing's work? What would you take from Mai's work?
Yani I will take that dedication is the most important thing. That if we really want to succeed, we have really to be very involved and very linked to these women, to be able to help them and reach an impact with them.
Understood. Blessing, 3 words to sum up how you feel after this discussion and this encounter, the encounters you had with other women.
3 words, like you said.
3 words.
I'm energized, I'm fearless, I'm bold, and going back home, I think I will want to work more with rural women and young girls.
Oh, it seems like we've made a
we've
made a pair here.
I'm seeing the connection there. Like she rightly said, they also need to be in those spaces.
And you didn't think about that?
I didn't think much about that. You know, sometimes when you talk about community,
city women,
urban women, because
Exactly.
that's what is obtainable out there. We just think that the educated women are those with the right skills and those who can speak the language, those who can engage. But hearing from my roots friends,
she proved us wrong.
So it means we have to find them too, also at the
So we have, ladies, a few minutes, and I would like to very quickly know about your personal journey, because you guys are 4 fearless women. So no, guys, you ladies are 4 fearless women on the ground. But I would like to know very quickly what took you on that ground. Mai.
My journey, why I'm so engaged with the migrant women, is I started work learning about migration and feminization of migration when I worked as a researcher with the Frankfurt Institute for Women Research. And I studied the situation of the migrant women, and I realized how difficult the lives of the women. Either they are married to foreign nationals or working as nurses, domestic workers. So it's very challenging to live in another country. And when I studied the situation of the families left behind, I learned that they are also suffering from growing up without mothers. It's very difficult. During the time when we started our organization, nobody believes that there's an issue. Everybody's just so happy receiving the remittance. There's no problem at all. Everybody's happy. But we realized that if we do not do anything about it, the sacrifices of the migrant women will be in vain, because they go out of the country for the family. And it's tragic if they go home after 10 years, not having or sometimes even 30 years, realizing that they made a wrong decision, that they are a failure. And it's heartbreaking this way, that all the sacrifices are in vain. So I realized that we have to do something. We have to work. Even when we started this work with Atika, we were all working as volunteers. Nobody wanted to support us because they believe, why should we help migrants who are relatively well off. No?
So you have seen
Yeah.
the situation and you've decided to
Yeah,
help.
we have to,
Okay.
somebody has to do it.
And you
There's
did
a
it.
social, moral obligation to do it.
And you did
I
it.
did it.
Ruth, why go in such remote areas,
Yeah.
work with women who have practically nothing? Why?
So immediately after my university, I went to volunteer at an NGO, and this NGO was managed by a group of lawyers, women lawyers actually. And there I met women who, had gone through some very hard times, domestic violence, you name it. And these women just really mentored me into women's empowerment. They got me into women's empowerment, into the feminist ideology. And when I left, I knew that my passion and my entire work life would be dedicated to working with women's rights and women's empowerment. And so I worked in the private sector for a while, but I felt that this is really
That
not
was not
where,
you.
this is not me. So when I got the opportunity to work with Maasai women, I immediately knew that this is where my heart is, and that's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing.
And that's where it stayed.
Yeah.
Cecilia?
Actually, I'm here because of my father. He's one of the founders of the Lebanon Family Planning Association, and since I can remember, we've been going around with him, and we are volunteering with the association within the youth activities that they did, and so on. So I did agriculture at the university, and then nutrition, and then I found that I can really give to the association and to work with them and help empower women, because with every project we learn something new. When we're doing something for political participation of women, and the women come and said, please, we need to do this thing. So we start working with them on the things that they really need. So we're always in touch with their needs, and we try to respond to them. And like Ruth said, they are not beneficiaries, they are partners with us. We consult with them.
They work. They work too.
So
you don't work for them.
We work with them, actually.
You work with them.
Which is
Blessing.
For me, coming from the corporate sector where you're faced with sexual harassment and a lot of gender-based violence, and also coming from the southeastern part of the country where...
Are you sure that you're not sisters, Blessing and Ruth? What's that? What's happening here?
I don't know that. Also coming from the Igbo-speaking part where you have male preference to a girl child also was my striking force into going to the development sector, and also using my feminism, because I've always known that I'm a feminist inside, and meeting some of the mentors that has helped me groom myself over years. That was it, and that was how I decided to go into it full time.
So you decided just like that? You woke up one morning and you knew that
because
that's
I was
what you were
tired
going
of the
to do.
corporate sector. I wanted a change. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make that impact. I wanted to contribute to the women from my side. Because if you don't have a male child, I'm telling you, you're in a big mess.
Wow.
Yes, it's that bad.
And would you say that things have shifted a little bit?
Yeah, it
right now?
has. Over years, it has. Because people are now beginning to see the importance of the girl child. In my own part of the country, people are seeing that women actually takes care of their parents when they are old. Even the men don't do that. And I know that that cuts across all.
Yes.
And you all agree with that?
Yeah. It has changed.
But women is still considered as the caretaker.
Yes, we still have it, but it's not as it used to in the past. There's this change, and we're getting there.
Things are changing, and ladies, you are the living proof for that. Thank you so much for accepting to share your experience and your challenges, and hopefully next year you will come more invigorated and with new ideas and new participation. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you who have been following us through Facebook. Thank you to the fantastic VOA's New York team for their hard work. Chuck Faguchi, I'm talking to you. Gary Butterworth, who produced the show. We wish you a beautiful day or night, depending on where you are, and hope these fearless women on the ground have inspired you. Stay on Voice of America.